One wrong step, one wrong glance, and the entire illusion would shatter. The music rose, the doors waited, and I stood at the head of the aisle, corseted, polished, sculpted into a vision I had no right to play, yet somehow was the only one who could. My sister's husband slipped his arm through mine, steady and warm. "Ready?" he whispered. I wasn't. Not even close, but my head still dipped in a tiny, fragile nod. The bridesmaids floated ahead of me like painted ghosts, their satin skirts whispering across the floor. With each one that disappeared beneath the flowered arch, my pulse climbed higher, tighter, faster. The corset gripped me like a fist, turning every breath into a countdown. Then came the tug on my arm. My cue. The crowd turned toward me as one eyes bright in the candlelight, faces expectant, unaware of the storm raging inside the girl in white. The bouquet trembled in my gloved hands, soft petals contrasting painfully with the dazzling satin that engulfed me. Lace shimmered across my neckline, delicate enough to expose me, heavy enough to hide me. And in that suspended second, standing on the brink of a life I wasn't supposed to fit into, I stepped forward anyway. I lifted my foot for the first step, but memory ambushed me the moment Diana burst into my room earlier, catching me wrestling with the zipper. For a beat, we simply stared at each other, my heart plummeting, her eyes widening. Then the shock loosened its grip on both of us, and she burst out laughing. She said I looked better than she remembered, and I shooed her away before she started fussing. Her grin lingered in my mind long after she closed the door, even as the sound of laughter and clinking glasses rose from downstairs, reminding me that a house full of people waited to see me, whether I liked it or not. Mom had stood beside me then, her hand warm on my arm. She said gently that it was time, that I couldn't delay any longer. I tried one last protest, asked if I really had to go through with it, gesturing at myself with a mixture of panic and disbelief. She told me I looked wonderful, and I knew she meant it, but that only heightened my nerves. I'd spent the entire day preparing, adjusting every detail, and suddenly felt completely unprepared. She urged me toward the stairs, and I followed, still haunted by the fear that the first glance from the guests would expose every secret thought swirling inside me. That fear had been with me since my first time out in the city. I remembered stepping from the car onto the crowded sidewalk, the noise engulfing me, honking horns, people calling to each other, the neon signs blinking like impatient eyes. I clutched my purse and inhaled the strange electricity of it all, the kind of energy that dared me to take another step. I had felt invisible, and paradoxically, more seen than at any other point in my life. I was 16 then, making my first attempt to move through the world as the girl I knew existed inside me. My parents had gone away for the weekend, and I decided to finally act on the urge that had hovered in me for years. I pulled out the hidden bag where I kept the clothes and the little vanity case I guarded like a secret diary. Once dressed, I became Nicole again, and this time nothing held me back. With no fear of being discovered, my makeup turned out clean and balanced, my hair neat and smooth, the blue dress shaping itself around my frame in a way that felt startlingly natural. When I walked down the sidewalk, the click of my heels echoed like encouragement. Everything in the city felt amplified, the smell of warm bread from the deli, the rich scent of pizza drifting from an open door, the gritty perfume of traffic and concrete. Someone called out to me, a casual "hey baby" tossed into the air, and I kept walking. My heart thudded like a drum, but I stayed upright, stayed moving, until I reached the small theater. I bought a ticket, popcorn, found a seat. I barely absorbed the film. What mattered was that I had stepped out into the world as myself, unmasked and unnamed. After the movie, I drifted back to the deli, let the man behind the counter chat with me as he wrapped my sandwich, then returned home with my treasure of a night. I ate by the window, savoring the silence, replaying every step, every sound, every tiny victory. I knew then that I would go out again, that the door I had opened would never fully close. I'd been borrowing my sister's clothes since before I understood why I needed to, and over the years, I'd been caught more times than I wanted to admit. Mom discovered me again just last week, and instead of grounding me, she insisted that I attend the upcoming summer costume party as a girl. She said it would give me a chance to do it right, and that she and Diana would help. The idea of showing up dressed in front of people I knew terrified me, but Mom's mind was made up. She told me to choose an outfit and a name, though I already had one tucked away in my heart. Diana let me raid her closet, selecting pieces with a stern kind of enthusiasm. She said that if I was going to do this, I had to commit, otherwise people would tease me. She wasn't wrong and she wasn't unkind, but I still declined her offer to help. If I asked for help, it would be from Mom. Back in my room, I spread everything across the bed and began listing what I still needed. The list grew longer by the minute, but so did my determination. I took my money and headed for the shopping strip, spending nearly $40 on items I'd never had the courage to buy before. When I returned home, I used tricks I'd read online, carefully crafting the pieces I needed, including a pair of makeshift forms made from birdseed and old fabric. Then came the wait. 3 long days filled with flashes of excitement and spirals of fear, my mind inventing every possible disaster the moment I stepped into that party as a girl. Friday finally arrived, and by late afternoon, Mom had gently corralled me into the bathroom with a bottle of hair removal cream and the kind of firm patience only she possessed. Until then, I'd only ever shaved my legs in secret, clumsy strokes with a razor. But this was different, methodical, deliberate. After a long shower, I stepped out with a towel around me and skin so smooth it felt unreal. It startled me to see myself with no hair below my eyebrows, like I had quietly shed an older version of me without a goodbye. I tugged on the soft panties, collected my makeup box, and padded into Mom's room. She watched with affectionate scrutiny as I began applying foundation, then stopped me with a gentle hold on and took over, guiding my hand through each step. Foundation, powder, a hint of shadow, careful lines that framed my eyes instead of drowning them. She showed me techniques I didn't even know existed. By the time she leaned back to inspect her work, I looked polished, balanced, almost bright. It felt like seeing a possibility I'd never dared to imagine. Back in my room, Mom sat on the edge of the bed while I got dressed piece by piece. After fastening the bra, I placed the forms inside carefully shaped earlier that week and watched as the fabric settled naturally. Not exaggerated, not awkward, just present. It made the outfit feel real in a way that startled me. Mom offered to help with the rest, but I wanted to finish this part myself. I stepped into my padded brief, pulled on pantyhose, then wriggled into the waist nipper, feeling the subtle compression contour me in a way that added confidence rather than discomfort. The dress slipped over my head like it had been waiting for this exact moment. Mom zipped the back, smoothing the fabric with a proud little sigh. I stepped into the heels and tried taming my hair, but the best hairstyle I'd ever managed solo was a lopsided ponytail. Mom didn't tease me. Instead, she motioned me back into her room, sat me at the vanity, and with only a brush, some spray, and 2 barrettes, transformed my hair into something soft and unmistakably feminine. It wasn't elaborate, just neat, intentional, and surprisingly flattering. I added the jewelry she handed me, delicate earrings that caught the light when I turned my head, and a small necklace that felt like a final signature. When I stood in front of the mirror again, everything clicked. The red sheath dress, the glossy black heels, the gentle hairstyle, the clean makeup, the light scent of perfume, the full picture made me freeze between exhilaration and terror. Half of me wanted to run downstairs with bold confidence. The other half wanted to dive under the bed and never come out. Mom asked if I was ready. My outward self nodded automatically, while the part of me, hidden beneath layers of nerves, screamed no. But she took my arm, steady as ever, and I let her lead me out of the room, down the stairs, into the soft hum of voices below. A few people glanced my way, classmates among them, then looked right past me without recognition. The relief was so intense, I almost laughed. But Diana recognized me immediately. She practically skidded across the room to reach me, taking in the sight with wide eyes. "Holy cow, you look amazing," she said, breathlessly sincere. She had never seen me fully dressed like this, not even close, and I could see her surprise wobbling between pride and disbelief. Mom introduced me as her sister Allison, a name she conjured instantly, without consulting me. I hadn't told her mine, and I couldn't tell if she improvised or had been planning it all along. Before Diana could react, her friend Mark wandered over, with the easy confidence of someone who never worried about saying the wrong thing. He asked who I was. Diana snapped a possessive "keep your hands off," and I watched realization flicker across his face as he connected the dots. His exclamation slipped, half shock, half admiration, and then, unbelievably, he said I might even outshine Diana. That earned him a well-deserved swat. He told me to be careful, or someone might whisk me away, and Diana rolled her eyes before pulling me toward the punch bowl. I tried to blend into the scenery while scanning for the people I dreaded seeing, most my friends, who'd been invited long before Mom insisted on this transformation. Ryan, my best friend, since forever approached in a pirate costume, all swagger and bandana. Without hesitation, he wrapped an arm around me and asked Diana who I was. She introduced me as Allison, and Ryan didn't miss a beat. He invited me to dance, and before I could protest, he swept me into motion. I let him lead because fighting it would have drawn more attention, and the point tonight was survival. He said I looked familiar, asked if we'd met. I answered only not like this, hoping it would buy time, but Ryan was quick. His eyes narrowed slightly, then widened as understanding hit. "You're Adam," I nodded, bracing for disaster, but he didn't let go. Instead, he held me just a little more firmly until the music shifted. Then he asked how long I'd been doing this, how I'd learned to move, to get ready, to present myself with such deliberate care. His tone wasn't mocking. It was observant, patient, almost protective. He said no one could look this put together without experience or genuine desire, and hearing him say it aloud rattled me more than any teasing could have. He pointed out Lauren across the room, dressed as Alice in Wonderland, struggling with the unfamiliarity of a dress, while I moved with practiced ease. I understood exactly what he meant. Lauren, though a girl, always felt more comfortable presenting in ways that aligned with who she was inside, and tonight she was clearly fighting herself. Her awkwardness mirrored the kind of discomfort I'd spent years trying to hide. In a strange way, we were opposites caught at the same crossroads. Ryan suggested we step out onto the patio to get some air, his voice low and steady. And before my mind caught up with the moment, I found myself nodding, letting him guide me toward the open door and the cool night waiting just beyond it. Ryan hooked his arm through mine, and even though every part of me wanted to stay inside where it felt marginally safer, he guided me across the room and out the back door. Once the noise softened behind us, I exhaled for the first time in what felt like minutes. I still didn't understand why he'd held me tighter during the dance after realizing who I was, and confusion clung to me like humidity. Several people lingered on the patio, chatting in small clusters. One of them was Lisa Ryan's ex. The moment she spotted us, her glare sharpened enough to cut glass. She clearly hadn't been filled in on my identity, and in a strange, mischievous way, I savored that tiny moment. Her jealousy felt like a stolen badge of femininity, and it steadied me far more than it should have. Ryan settled himself on the low brick wall and motioned for me to sit beside him. I did, careful not to wrinkle the dress. "Lisa looks mad at you," I murmured. "Because I ended it, not her," he said. His arm slipped around my waist again, pulling me a little closer, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. I didn't know how to react, so I held still, feeling a mixture of nerves and curiosity ripple through me. Then he asked the question I'd dreaded: how long I'd been dressing this way. I didn't want to answer, but he had already pieced the truth together, so I admitted it quietly. Since I was little, I guess. He swore he never suspected a thing, despite knowing me practically my whole life. Hearing that I had fooled even him hit harder than any compliment I'd ever received. It validated every hour I'd spent trying to understand myself. Then Ryan asked if I wanted to go to a show the next day, at the Majestic of all places. It took me a second to register what he meant. My best friend had just asked me out, on an actual date, as Allison. I stammered, trying to remind him that I wasn't really a girl, hoping it would clear the haze between us. He didn't immediately answer. Instead, he glanced around, leaned slightly closer, and told me in a quiet, earnest voice that he wanted to kiss me. I froze. Not because it scared me, but because I didn't understand why. I'm not a girl, Ryan, you know that. Yeah, but we know everything about each other already, he said. And tonight you look incredible. His arm tightened around my waist. He asked how many times I'd gone out like this, and I admitted I'd been careful, but had done it a handful of times. He said he didn't know why I worried so much, because I looked great. Then, before I could form a reply, he tugged me closer and kissed me quick, unexpected. Nothing dramatic, just a moment that stretched longer than it had any right to. A swirl of shock, warmth, confusion, and something I didn't dare name exploded inside me. By the time I realized what had happened, the kiss was already over. A sharp voice cut through the air. Now that's what I call quick work, Allison. Diana stood near us, arms crossed, expression unreadable. My stomach plunged. She told me some friends were planning a picnic Sunday and wanted to know if I'd come. Ryan, still wearing that half-goofy grin, agreed for both of us before I could even breathe out a protest. I can't do this, I said to him once Diana stepped away. I'm not ready, especially not in a swimsuit. He brushed it off easily. He'd pick me up Sunday at noon. And why not come to the show tomorrow anyway? I said no, but he only smiled and said he'd call me tomorrow in case I changed my mind. Suddenly, I had one confirmed date and another hovering in the wings, and I hadn't encouraged any of it. Not intentionally, anyway. Worse, some kids on the patio had seen the kiss, which meant everything now balanced on a knife's edge. If I went out with Ryan, people would assume I wanted to be seen this way. If I didn't go, they'd wonder why I let him hold me close and kiss me in the first place. Either choice scattered potential trouble like confetti, especially once school started again. All of this flashed through my mind in the span of a heartbeat, and when I looked at Diana's triumphant little smile, and then at Ryan's soft brown eyes, I knew I was trapped. Or chosen. Or both. Slowly, reluctantly, I nodded. Great, Diana said before disappearing inside. Ryan laughed, said he couldn't wait to see me in a swimsuit. I muttered something sarcastic, but he didn't catch it. He simply smiled wider. Mom wasn't exactly delighted when she overheard the news, but she wasn't upset either. She reminded me she'd promised everything would turn out fine. And now here I was, with a date for Sunday. And tomorrow, I added, watching both her and Diana stare at me with stunned expressions. Ryan asked me to a show. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal? Mom said. That means he's very interested. Interested in what? He knows I'm not a girl. He was just being polite. Then why did he kiss you? She asked. I had no answer for that. Not before Diana jumped in and spilled about the kiss. Mom threw up her hands and went to bed, leaving me with Diana, who stared like she'd been waiting all night to deliver a lecture. Look, dummy, she said. When a guy kisses you and then asks you out, he's interested. And Ryan wasn't acting confused. He was acting smitten. But he knows I'm not a girl. Take one look in the mirror and you'll see why he doesn't care. Half the kids tonight didn't even realize who you were. Meanwhile, every girl here has tried and failed to get Ryan's attention, and then along comes Allison, the mysterious new girl, and he falls head first. But I said no to the show, and you trapped me into the beach thing. I'm guilty of wearing this dress, that's it, Diana snorted. You'll go, and you know you'll go. You've been dressing like this for as long as I've known you. And now that people have seen you, accepted you, and treated you like a girl, you're not going to back out. Not when it's Ryan asking. Diana hit the one weak spot I could never defend. And the worst part was that she knew it instantly. She said we made a cute couple, and when I shot back something sarcastic, she only grinned and called me Sister Dear, as if she'd been waiting years for the chance. I clearly needed to sharpen my comebacks. Still, when I drifted off to sleep that night, my mind circled one impossible thought: what it would feel like to actually be Ryan's girl. I dismissed it as nothing more than a passing dream, but that didn't stop it from lingering. Morning came too quickly. I threw on jeans for breakfast, hoping for normalcy. No luck. Diana immediately announced that we needed to find a swimsuit for Sunday. She claimed she had one that might work, and Mom, hearing the tail end of our conversation, demanded an explanation. Diana gleefully provided the full recap: the dance, the kiss, the invitation for that night, the picnic tomorrow. I sat there wishing the floor would swallow me. Mom studied me with the expression she reserved for decisions I didn't want her to make. She asked whether I planned to go on either of these dates. I didn't know what answer was safer, but deep down, like Diana said, I wanted to try. I admitted that Ryan knew who I was, so it couldn't be that dangerous. Mom warned me things could still get complicated, but ultimately told me the choice was mine. Then came swimsuit time. Diana pulled me toward her room with the force of a tornado disguised as a sibling. She insisted she wouldn't look, and that we were practically sisters anyway. She handed me 2 swimsuits and pointed to the bathroom. The first one clung like paint and highlighted every insecurity imaginable. Off it went. The second one was sturdier, with more structure and a little skirt that eased some of my panic. It wasn't perfect, but it was survivable. But I still had one enormous worry: the shape, the silhouette, the small details that could give me away instantly. I knew I needed to create a smoother, more traditionally feminine outline to feel safe. Diana offered a pair of old shorts she used back when she had less shape, and handed me a whole stack of items that might help build a believable figure. I retreated into my room to experiment, piecing together what worked and discarding what didn't. Some things were too small, others uncomfortable, but one idea took shape literally: padding in the right places, smoothing layers, a bit of structure here, a bit of contour there. Nothing extreme, nothing dangerous, just clever shaping. When I looked in the mirror, my hips were a touch rounder, and the shorts fit me surprisingly well. The problem was keeping everything controlled and consistent, especially if I had to move, swim, or bend. I'd read online about techniques for flattening and smoothing one's silhouette for stage performances and costume events, and I tried a safer, simplified version of those methods: padding, compression, extra layers of fabric, nothing harmful, just arrangement and support. It took time, a lot of adjusting, a lot of frustration, but eventually I stepped back and saw something close to what I needed: a stable, neat outline that wouldn't betray me in a simple summer outfit. With that done, I moved on to the rest of my preparation. I evened my skin, applied foundation and powder carefully, letting the familiar transformation settle my nerves. Then I dressed again, adding soft padding at the hips and chest, shaping everything subtly until it all formed a coherent whole beneath the clothes. A supportive bra helped keep the upper silhouette smooth, and when I layered my forms inside, the result felt surprisingly natural, more balanced than anything I'd managed before. For the first time all morning, I allowed myself a breath. I didn't look like a caricature or a costume. I looked like Allison, the version of me I had only ever imagined in fragments. I pulled on my gym shoes and a simple tee, smoothed my hair with a brush, added lipstick for a bit of color, clipped on earrings, and took one last look in the mirror before heading to the kitchen. Mom took one glance and actually gasped, not in horror, but pure surprise. The shorts Diana had given me fit snugly, but, thanks to all the shaping work, hid everything they needed to. My silhouette looked softer, more balanced, more unmistakably feminine than the night before. Before Mom could process any of it, the phone rang. She answered, shot me a look, then handed it over. It was Amy, one of the girls from the party. She wasted no time. She wanted to know if it was true that Ryan had asked me out. I told her yes, and she immediately snapped, accusing me of ruining her long campaign to get his attention. She claimed she almost had him until I showed up. Her voice bristled with territorial fury. I didn't want to fight with her. In my mind, this whole thing with Ryan was temporary, something I'd survive for the weekend and then quietly step back from. But I couldn't say that, so I reminded her gently that Ryan chose who he spent time with, not me. She slammed the phone down so hard, I felt the vibration through my ear. Mom asked what happened. I told her, and she didn't even try to hide her skepticism. She said she believed my claim of nothing going on just as much as she believed in the Easter Bunny. Diana appeared next, wearing shorts and a tee like she was mirroring my outfit on purpose. She asked if I wanted to get my hair done with her. I laughed it off. That wasn't in my plan. She asked if I was scared. I said no, only realistic. If Allison disappeared after this weekend, a professional hairstyle would make that complicated. Diana found that hilarious. She insisted Allison wasn't going anywhere, not after last night, not after how I looked, not after Ryan's attention. Mom agreed, adding more fuel to the fire. She said learning to present myself, to handle grooming, to understand the whole experience of being a girl wouldn't hurt me. Then she added something half joking, half serious about waiting for dates and living with the double standards women face. I was stunned enough to ask if she actually wanted me living as a girl full-time. Mom said she didn't see any reason not to, especially considering I had already kissed a boy, a comment that nearly sent me through the floor. Before I could regroup, Diana took my arm and marched me out the door. We drove straight to the salon, and she assured me that with my naturally curly hair, Jerry the stylist could work wonders. She even said she expected I'd look more striking than last night, which only made my nerves tangle tighter. I asked why she and Mom were suddenly so invested in this. Diana didn't sugarcoat anything. She said they were tired of me sneaking around like a kid playing dress-up. When Mom told her I looked pretty, she didn't believe it until she saw me at the party. Then Ryan's reaction sealed it. Diana had been watching me the entire night. She said the way I moved, smiled, interacted, and she claimed I had enjoyed every second. She explained that I'd been accepted at the party as Allison because no one suspected the truth. So when the Lakeside Park picnic came up, the group invited me naturally as Diana's sister, and she, not wanting me to feel isolated, invited Ryan. She said all of this calmly, like reading a weather report, while I sat stunned. Then she said the part I least wanted to hear, that I clearly liked how I looked, and I clearly wanted to go further. She'd seen the effort I put into shaping my outfit today. She said it wasn't just about avoiding embarrassment, it was about wanting to feel right. And that was why we were in the salon, to make sure I matched the girl I kept trying to become. I hated how accurate she was. Deep down, I knew I wanted this. I wanted to see how far Allison could go. I wanted a style that left no doubt. I tried to protest, but the words came out hollow. Instead, I asked her not to tell anyone. She promised she wouldn't. Inside, I sat watching while Diana had her hair washed, unaware a technician was approaching me until she tapped my chair. She introduced herself as Lisa the nail specialist and said Diana had signed me up for a manicure. Nails? I squeaked. Lisa cheerfully confirmed it. Acrylics, extensions, color the whole works. I could have refused. I knew this would keep me from blending back into my old self for days. But something about Diana's earlier words dug into me, and I heard myself agreeing. Lisa shaped each nail with practiced precision, giving me neat, rounded extensions in a soft plum shade. They didn't look exaggerated, just polished, delicate, quietly feminine. By the time my nails dried, Jerry waved me over. She washed my hair thoroughly, then began cutting and shaping with quiet concentration. She added a few rollers, spritzed some gel, covered everything with a plastic cap, and told me to relax. 20 minutes later, she removed the rollers and brushed everything out, coaxing my curls into place. When she turned me toward the mirror, I saw the transformation for the first time. Parted cleanly down the middle, my hair fell into soft, springy ringlets that framed my face from ear to ear, with loose bangs brushed neatly to the side. It looked effortless and intricate, at the same time the kind of hairstyle I had never imagined wearing, let alone pulling off. Jerry told me to hold still. Then, with a quick, practiced motion, she popped small plastic ear inserts into place. I winced, more from surprise than pain. By the time she was finished, Diana was wrapping up as well, and she paid the bill for both of us before I could even blink. Standing there, nails done, hair styled, small touches of femininity settling into my reflection, I realized there wasn't much chance of returning to my old self soon. The mirror didn't mock me. If anything, it welcomed me. My smile felt unfamiliar and unstoppable, my teeth bright against the soft red lipstick Jerry had recommended. "Ready?" Diana asked, jolting me out of my trance. We walked out together, sunlight catching the sheen of my fresh curls as we crossed the lot to her car. "You look hot, Allison." "Actually sizzling," Diana declared, as if announcing breaking news. "Thanks," I said, blushing despite myself. Then she blindsided me. "Tell me if Ryan gets a little too enthusiastic. How far are you planning to go?" I nearly choked. My eyes must have gone huge. Diana, of course, only smirked, launching into one of her learned-from-life speeches about boys thinking with the wrong priorities and girls needing to steer them back on track. I assured her loudly that I wasn't doing anything like that with Ryan. She didn't argue, just said, "Every girl says that," in a tone that made me want to crawl under the seat. When she added that boys could get into your head without you noticing, I couldn't deny I had thought about the possibility, even if I insisted it wouldn't apply to me. Then she glanced over and said something that stunned me more than the salon bill. "Honestly, Allison, if I hadn't watched you grow up, I wouldn't believe you're my brother." Despite everything, a smile tugged at my mouth. "I do look pretty good, don't I? Want to stop at the mall? Maybe we can find you a better swimsuit." Any remaining common sense evaporated. I nodded. She added that we could buy earrings and accessories too. I started to protest I didn't have that kind of money, but Diana calmly waved a credit card. Apparently, Mom had given it to her just in case. My fate was sealed. We reached the mall, and Diana steered us into Hudson's. Endless racks of swimsuits spilled everywhere, colors, shapes, patterns, a dizzying rainbow that immediately made me feel out of my depth. I wanted to find something cute, something flattering, but I still wasn't confident enough to stand alone among the displays. I touched fabrics like I was browsing someone else's life, pretending to look while really waiting for Diana to return. When she didn't, I went searching and found her in the lingerie section, holding two small boxes. I arrived just in time to watch her pay for them. "Guess what I found?" she asked mischievously. "No idea." "Free money?" I offered weakly. "No, silly. Come here." She tugged me into a changing booth before I could escape. Inside, she opened one of the boxes, revealing a realistic-looking breast form. Not an exaggerated version, just natural, modest, something designed for everyday wear. It matched my skin tone remarkably well, and even in the dim booth lighting, it looked convincing. She explained they were lightweight, adhered gently to the skin, and warmed to body temperature after a while. They were the smallest size, something that would look proportional on me. I hesitated only for a moment before slipping off my tee and bra. She helped position them carefully so they sat exactly where they should, blending seamlessly. When I stepped back and looked in the mirror, I had to blink. They didn't look like accessories, they looked like part of me. And suddenly, the swimsuit search seemed a lot less hopeless. With those forms in place, The second suit I tried, the paint-smooth one I couldn't wear earlier, fit perfectly now. No sharp lines, no awkward gaps, no struggling to hide what didn't belong. My silhouette finally made sense. Paired with the gentle padding at my hips and waist, I actually looked balanced, confident, almost effortless. I changed back into my shorts and tee, heart pounding, and followed Diana out to the rest of the mall. She headed straight to Bella's boutique, a shop I'd visited before, under the excuse of just browsing. Now, though, I wasn't pretending. The place felt like a candy store, and I wanted everything: satin, lace, delicate fabrics, and soft colors. Diana waved me over to the corselet section, lifting one in white satin and saying it would help shape my figure even more. I wanted it instantly. She measured me, and we bought it. Then it was on to jewelry, earrings, bracelets, necklaces, even a little gold watch. Before I knew it, we were back in clothing. Mom had apparently instructed Diana to buy me a proper wardrobe, not just odds and ends. I tried not to think about the bill as Diana piled dresses, skirts, blouses, and underwear sets into the cart. By the time we walked out of the mall, arms loaded with bags, I felt lightheaded. Somewhere between the salon chair and the checkout lane, Allison had gone from weekend experiment to something far more real. And as I studied my hands, the soft plum nails catching light whenever I moved, I realized I didn't feel trapped. I felt seen. We carried all the bags inside without thinking, and when Mom saw me, I honestly thought she might faint. My hair, my nails, the way my clothes sat on me, it all hit her at once. "You look," I hated how accurate she was. Deep down, I knew I wanted this. I wanted to see how far Allison could go. I wanted a style that left no doubt. I tried to protest, but the words came out hollow. Instead, I asked her not to tell anyone. She promised she wouldn't. Inside, I sat watching while Diana had her hair washed, unaware a technician was approaching me until she tapped my chair. She introduced herself as Lisa, the nail specialist, and said Diana had signed me up for a manicure. "Nails?" I squeaked. Lisa cheerfully confirmed it. Acrylics, extensions, color, the whole works. I could have refused. I knew this would keep me from blending back into my old self for days. But something about Diana's earlier words dug into me, and I heard myself agreeing. Lisa shaped each nail with practiced precision, giving me neat, rounded extensions in a soft plum shade. They didn't look exaggerated, just polished, delicate, quietly feminine. By the time my nails dried, Jerry waved me over. She washed my hair thoroughly, then began cutting and shaping with quiet concentration. She added a few rollers, spritzed some gel, covered everything with a plastic cap, and told me to relax. 20 minutes later, she removed the rollers and brushed everything out, coaxing my curls into place. When she turned me toward the mirror, I saw the transformation for the first time. Parted cleanly down the middle, my hair fell into soft, springy ringlets that framed my face from ear to ear, with loose bangs brushed neatly to the side. It looked effortless and intricate, at the same time the kind of hairstyle I had never imagined wearing, let alone pulling off. Jerry told me to hold still. Then, with a quick, practiced motion, she popped small plastic ear inserts into place. I winced, more from surprise than pain. By the time she was finished, Diana was wrapping up as well, and she paid the bill for both of us before I could even blink. Standing there, nails done, hair styled, small touches of femininity settling into my reflection, I realized there wasn't much chance of returning to my old self soon. The mirror didn't mock me. If anything, it welcomed me. My smile felt unfamiliar and unstoppable, my teeth bright against the soft red lipstick Jerry had recommended. "Ready?" Diana asked, jolting me out of my trance. We walked out together, sunlight catching the sheen of my fresh curls as we crossed the lot to her car. "You look hot, Allison. Actually sizzling," Diana declared, as if announcing breaking news. "Thanks," I said, blushing despite myself. Then she blindsided me. "Tell me if Ryan gets a little too enthusiastic. How far are you planning to go?" I nearly choked. My eyes must have gone huge. Diana, of course, only smirked, launching into one of her learned from life speeches about boys thinking with the wrong priorities and girls needing to steer them back on track. I assured her loudly that I wasn't doing anything like that with Ryan. She didn't argue, just said, "Every girl says that," in a tone that made me want to crawl under the seat. When she added that boys could get into your head without you noticing, I couldn't deny I had thought about the possibility, even if I insisted it wouldn't apply to me. Then she glanced over and said something that stunned me more than the salon bill. "Honestly, Allison, if I hadn't watched you grow up, I wouldn't believe you're my brother." Despite everything, a smile tugged at my mouth. "I do look pretty good, don't I? Want to stop at the mall? Maybe we can find you a better swimsuit." Any remaining common sense evaporated. I nodded. She added that we could buy earrings and accessories too. I started to protest. I didn't have that kind of money. But Diana calmly waved a credit card. Apparently, Mom had given it to her just in case. My fate was sealed. We reached the mall, and Diana steered us into Hudson's. Endless racks of swimsuits spilled everywhere, colors, shapes, patterns, a dizzying rainbow that immediately made me feel out of my depth. I wanted to find something cute, something flattering, but I still wasn't confident enough to stand alone among the displays. I touched fabrics like I was browsing someone else's life, pretending to look while really waiting for Diana to return. When she didn't, I went searching and found her in the lingerie section, holding two small boxes. I arrived just in time to watch her pay for them. "Guess what I found?" she asked mischievously. "No idea." "Free money?" I offered weakly. "No, silly. Come here." She tugged me into a changing booth before I could escape. Inside, she opened one of the boxes, revealing a realistic-looking breast form. Not an exaggerated version, just natural, modest, something designed for everyday wear. It matched my skin tone remarkably well, and even in the dim booth lighting, it looked convincing. She explained they were lightweight, adhered gently to the skin, and warmed to body temperature after a while. They were the smallest size, something that would look proportional on me. I hesitated only for a moment before slipping off my tee and bra. She helped position them carefully so they sat exactly where they should, blending seamlessly. When I stepped back and looked in the mirror, I had to blink. They didn't look like accessories, they looked like part of me. And suddenly, the swimsuit search seemed a lot less hopeless. With those forms in place, the second suit I tried, the paint-smooth one I couldn't wear earlier, fit perfectly now. No sharp lines, no awkward gaps, no struggling to hide what didn't belong. My silhouette finally made sense. Paired with the gentle padding at my hips and waist, I actually looked balanced, confident, almost effortless. I changed back into my shorts and tee, heart pounding, and followed Diana out to the rest of the mall. She headed straight to Bella's boutique, a shop I'd visited before, under the excuse of just browsing. Now, though, I wasn't pretending. The place felt like a candy store, and I wanted everything: satin, lace, delicate fabrics in soft colors. Diana waved me over to the corselet section, lifting one in white satin and saying it would help shape my figure even more. I wanted it instantly. She measured me, and we bought it. Then it was on to jewelry, earrings, bracelets, necklaces, even a little gold watch. Before I knew it, we were back in clothing. Mom had apparently instructed Diana to buy me a proper wardrobe, not just odds and ends. I tried not to think about the bill as Diana piled dresses, skirts, blouses, and underwear sets into the cart. By the time we walked out of the mall, arms loaded with bags, I felt lightheaded. Somewhere between the salon chair and the checkout lane, Allison had gone from weekend experiment to something far more real. And as I studied my hands, the soft plum nails catching light whenever I moved, I realized I didn't feel trapped. I felt seen. We carried all the bags inside without thinking, and when Mom saw me, I honestly thought she might faint. My hair, my nails, the way my clothes sat on me, it all hit her at once. "You look completely different," she whispered. "Allison, your hair!" And your nails. That's not all, Diana said, practically glowing. You haven't seen the best part. Diana, Mom said cautiously. What does that mean exactly? Show her, Allison. I hesitated, then tugged my tea upward, just enough for Mom to see the general shape Diana had helped me create earlier, nothing graphic. Just the overall feminine silhouette. Mom gasped again, stepping closer before catching the subtle transition line in the makeup and padding. Pretty impressive, right? I said, cheeks burning. I'll say, she murmured, half in awe, half bewildered. Then her expression shifted. And exactly how long is this going to stay like that? A while, Diana answered much too quickly. Long enough that we can't undo anything before tonight. So yes, I was committed, whether I realized it or not. Mom then mentioned that Ryan had called and was already on his way, so Diana and I rushed everything upstairs. I refastened my bra, fixed my lipstick, checked my hair. Diana hovered like a coach preparing her star athlete. I can't wait to see his reaction when he sees you in your new swimsuit tomorrow, she said. Honestly, I'm still getting used to having a sister. Her smile faded into something gentler. You've dreamed about this for as long as I can remember, she said softly. You don't have to keep pretending you haven't. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang downstairs. I moved to rush down, but Diana grabbed my arm. Not yet. Let them wait. Entrances matter. Mom opened the door while Diana rummaged in my bags and pulled out a small black pullover top, nothing inappropriate, just more fitted than my tee, showing the shape I'd created. Wear this, she insisted. Trust me. I changed quickly. When Mom called me down, I walked carefully, deliberately, every step measured, graceful, the way Diana had been training me without saying it out loud. Ryan stood at the bottom, looking up at me, his expression wide-eyed, stunned. And I thought you looked good last night, he said softly. Thank you, I managed. Mom suggested we use the patio, and we stepped outside into the warm light. Ryan was still staring at me, caught between surprise and something else, something uneasy to name, but easy to feel. I finally asked, Why all of this, Ryan? You know I'm not a girl. He held up his hand gently. I know, but you found the courage last night to be honest about what you want, and that gave me the courage to be honest with you. I froze. I'm really attracted to you, he said quietly. It hit me so hard I forgot how to breathe. Ryan was known for dating the most popular girls, and none of them kept his attention. Yet here he was, looking at me like I'd stepped out of a different universe. He explained that I wasn't like those girls, that I wasn't shallow, that I was still the friend he trusted most, and seeing me like this only made things click in a way he hadn't expected. He said yesterday's kiss, soft, brief, innocent, had been his way of testing what he felt. Hearing him say it out loud made something warm swirl in my chest, something frightening and exhilarating at the same time. I'd never imagined my secret would lead us here. The feelings overwhelmed me so quickly, I started to cry before I could stop myself. Ryan moved instinctively, pulling me into a hug, steady, grounding. Nothing inappropriate, just a boy comforting his closest friend. My dream came true, I whispered, shaking. But I'm so scared. He didn't rush me, didn't laugh, didn't push. He just listened. Ryan, I finally said, wiping my eyes, you want someone who fits what people expect. And I'm still figuring out who I am. If I go with you, isn't that unfair for both of us? He shook his head. I don't care about any of that, he said. You're my friend. You've always been my friend. And I want us to explore this together slowly. No pressure, just seeing what feels right. So why can't we at least go on a date? I stared at him, stunned into silence, because I couldn't tell where Ryan ended and my imagination began anymore. My hands trembled, catching flashes of soft red from my polished nails, and something inside me finally clicked into place. Maybe I really was Allison now. Okay, I whispered. What now? Now, he said with that crooked smile I'd always secretly liked, I take you to dinner tonight. Somewhere nice. And tomorrow, you and I go to the park. We had known each other almost our whole lives. We had hidden pieces of ourselves for far too long. And somehow, in the middle of all this confusion, something new had begun between us. Something terrifying, delicate, and real. Now everything was out in the open. I wanted to live as a girl, and Ryan wanted to be the boy standing beside me. On paper, it made perfect sense, so why did my stomach twist itself into knots? He leaned back in his chair, studying me with that calm, easy smile of his. It took guts to do this, Allison, he said gently. Not many people would admit something this big about themselves. What you're doing is visible, everyone can see it. And you pull it off so well that most people wouldn't question it for a second. If I go to the park with you tomorrow, I'm taking my best friend with me. You! That's what matters. Then he stood, told me to get ready for a special dinner, and walked home. I watched him cross the yard, each step surreal. A day ago, he'd been just my best friend. Now he felt like the beginning of something I wasn't sure I deserved. Mom joined me on the patio, reading the confusion on my face instantly. Trouble, honey? Ryan said he's attracted to me, Mom. I never expected this. I never wanted this. What am I supposed to do now? She didn't hesitate. You go out with him and have a lovely evening. But Mom, you and Ryan have known each other since you were tiny, she said. He understands you better than anyone. Now that you've stopped hiding, he sees why you two always connected. His feelings shifted, and I'll bet yours have too. I tried to deny it. I really did. But my voice wobbled. Mom reminded me that consequences always follow the truth, and that I had hidden mine for most of my life. Now, instead of sneaking around in the shadows, I had the chance to step fully into who I was. And stepping into womanhood, she added, meant stepping into everything that came with it, including dating, attention, and choices. I never wanted to date, I whispered. I just liked dressing up sometimes. And now he wants me to be his girl. Mom asked if I'd ever rejected a girl who asked me out. I said no. She nodded. Exactly. Girls have the right to say no. And so do you. The problem was, I didn't want to say no. Not really, and Mom could see it plainly. She pointed out in that brutally honest mom way that I had chosen every single step of this transformation. The shaping, the hair, the nails, the pierced ears, the afternoon at the salon, the new clothes. Every step had been voluntary. And deep down, she said, it was what I had longed for. Then she added the dagger. You've committed to this for at least a month, Allison, so you may as well live it. I almost cried again, but she placed her hand on mine. I'm right, aren't I? I nodded. I couldn't deny it anymore, not to her, not to myself. Mom stood. Ryan's taking you somewhere special tonight, so let's go find you a dress that feels just as special. I followed her upstairs, surrendered to the moment. She closed my bedroom door. I want to see how you managed your shaping work, she said. I didn't show her anything inappropriate, just the overall way I'd arranged padding, contour, layers, the optical tricks I'd learned to create a smooth, feminine outline beneath my clothes. When she saw how effectively it worked, she gave a small, breathless laugh. You look incredible, she said. If I hadn't seen how you did this, I'd never guess. Ryan is going to fall over when he sees you. The praise broke me open. I cried into her shoulder, terrified and thrilled all at once. You are who you are, she whispered. So stop fighting yourself. She sent me to wash my face and freshen up. I showered carefully, without touching my new hair, dried off, moisturized, and returned to find a dress laid out on the bed, along with everything I'd need to finish the look. I slipped into fresh underthings and sat at the vanity. This time, I applied my makeup slowly, deliberately, foundation, powder, soft plum and gray shadows, a subtle coral highlight, eyeliner, mascara, a warm blush. It came together smoother than it ever had before. Then I dressed, padding arranged neatly, pantyhose smoothing over everything, the white corselet Diana chose tightening around my waist as I fastened the long row of hooks. My silhouette drew inward, elegant and controlled, and somewhere in the middle of it, Allison stepped forward again, steady and radiant. I tightened the laces of the corselet until I could feel my waist narrowing, each breath shorter but more controlled. Then I pulled Mom's dress over my head, a sleek, graceful thing she wore only for special occasions. The fabric hugged my new silhouette beautifully. For the first time, I didn't have to imagine myself as Allison. I looked like her. Mom came in and fixed my hair with soft, practiced hands. "You look lovely, sweetheart." Ryan won't know what hit him. I couldn't argue. Even I barely recognized the girl staring back at me in the mirror. Chandelier earrings, a matching choker, Mom's old ring, all of it added up to something quietly breathtaking. Something I had always dreamed of, without letting myself believe it was possible. Downstairs, Ryan arrived right on time. When Mom called me, I walked slowly down the stairs, each step deliberate. Ryan looked at me like I had become someone entirely new, someone luminous. Mom quickly made us stand side by side for a photo before he led me to the car. He drove us to the Grandview, a riverfront restaurant with candles on the tables and soft music drifting through the windows. "You look incredible," he whispered as we walked in. Dinner felt surreal. He treated me with gentle warmth, the kind of attention he never showed other girls. We talked, we laughed, we even danced a little. I felt seen not as a boy pretending to be something else, but as someone who finally matched the inside to the outside. On the drive home, he pulled into the lakeside park quiet, moonlit, calm. "Allison," he murmured, and he took my hand. Not pulling, not demanding, just holding it with a kind of reverence that made my heart stutter. He told me he cared about me, not just as a friend, but something deeper, something that had taken root the moment he saw me fully as myself. He said he admired the courage it took for me to show the world who I really was. Hearing it broke through something in me. I cried not from sadness, but from the weight of finally being seen. He pulled me into a soft, steady embrace, letting me hide my trembling face against his shoulder until the storm passed. When I finally pulled back, he placed something in my hand, his class ring. My breath caught. "Wear it," he said, "because I don't think Adam is coming back. I think you've always been Allison, and I want to be the one standing next to her." I cried again, but they were different tears, lighter somehow. When he took me home, we barely spoke. We didn't need to. In my room, as I undressed and changed into a nightgown, I replayed each moment of the evening. Not because of anything physical, there had been nothing inappropriate between us, but because of what it meant. I had crossed a line inside myself, a quiet, invisible threshold. I wasn't pretending anymore. I had chosen myself. Sleep came slowly, and when it did, I smiled into my pillow. Morning wasn't glamorous. I looked exhausted, hair half flattened, wearing shorts and a loose top. Mom saw me and raised an eyebrow. "Late night?" she asked knowingly. "Yeah," I said softly. "A good one. Dinner and dancing, it really was wonderful," I told Mom, keeping my tone light. "And after that?" she asked with a look that could cut glass. I wasn't about to tell her anything more, so I shrugged. We talked. We walked a little. He brought me home. "He didn't take you to the park?" My stomach flipped. How does she always know? "Yes." But Mom held up her hand, stopping me cold. "After breakfast, get ready for the beach." I didn't argue. Breakfast, then back to my room. I wasn't alone for more than 2 minutes before Diana burst in like a detective who already knew the ending. "Okay, sister dear, spill everything." "There's nothing to tell," I insisted. "Nice dinner, dancing, a couple of kisses." "A couple?" she gasped theatrically. "You're doomed. I absolutely have a sister now." Honestly, I was starting to suspect Diana was half witch. She told me to change, so I showered, shaved carefully, and pulled on a swimsuit under my shorts. I added subtle shaping where it counted, nothing drastic, nothing unsafe, just enough to maintain the smooth silhouette I'd worked so hard for. Quick, fresh makeup. My hair pinned back with barrettes, button earrings, gym shoes. I put Ryan's ring on a chain before I could change my mind. Diana saw the ring first. Oh no. Just a few kisses, my ass. She's wearing his class ring. Mom looked at it, but held her reaction. Anything else I should know? No, Mom. He gave it to me, and I didn't know how to say no. Rubbish, she muttered before walking off. Diana, however, wore a grin that could power a small city. Ryan arrived half an hour later. When he saw the necklace, he smiled. So you decided to wear my ring? You gave it to me, didn't you? Yeah, but I wasn't sure you'd want people to know. After last night? I said. No way. You wanted me, now you've got me. He put a hand on my knee, and I swatted it lightly. Focus on driving. Almost to the park, he said he'd talked to Mark, told him we were officially a couple. Mark promised to keep quiet. I couldn't help smiling. Femininity still worked as armor and invitation both. But I worried about the others, the ones who had figured me out at the party but kept silent. Once they saw me wearing Ryan's ring and holding his hand, the whispers would start. And then there was Amy, a walking storm cloud. We reached the beach, spread out our blankets, and Ryan quickly stripped down to his swim trunks. He looked at me expectantly. I scanned the area. No one watching. I slipped off my shorts. The swimsuit fit beautifully comfortable, secure, flattering, without revealing more than it should. Still, I felt exposed in a way I hadn't expected. Vulnerable. Wow, Ryan said, eyes wide. You look incredible. He patted the blanket beside him, and I sat delicately, knees together, hands folded, feeling every ounce of this new role. There's nothing about you, he murmured, that says anything except girl. You've done this amazingly. His admiration warmed me and terrified me at the same time. A voice interrupted us. Hi, Ryan. We looked up. Paul, Amy's older brother, stood there with his chest puffed like he owned the lake. You must be Allison, he said, inspecting me with exaggerated curiosity. My sister thought you'd be here. She's furious. Says you stole something from her. I stiffened. Then he added, and I hear you're not a girl at all, that you're actually Adam. Never thought you liked boys, Ryan. Ryan was on his feet instantly. Stand up, Allison. I stood, heart pounding. Ryan gestured at me. Does she look anything like a boy to you, Paul? Paul's eyes scanned me quickly, face, hair, posture, the way the suit fit my shoulders and hips. Everything read girl. Everything. Well, no, he admitted grudgingly. But I heard, Paul, you're an idiot. Your sister and I were never a thing. Now leave before I lose my temper. Paul retreated, but only far enough to gather his friends. They began whispering, glancing our way. This could get ugly, I whispered. We can't run, Ryan said softly. That'll make them worse. Just breathe. Sit with me. Just then, Diana and her friends arrived, instantly reading the tension in the air. Mark stood up, all 6 feet 2 inches of him, crossing his arms like a wall between us and the trouble gathering across the sand. No matter what happens, he said calmly, you girls stay put. Ryan and I will handle the rest. And there I sat, Allison, surrounded by friends who were willing to stand for me, with a boy who had chosen me, and a world that suddenly felt both frightening and astonishingly possible. We think she's a guy, Paul snapped, so let her prove she's not. There's no proving anything to you, Ryan shot back, stepping between us. Mark moved in beside him. Together, they were an immovable wall. Paul wasn't brave, just loud. But loud can still cause trouble. If she's a girl, she won't mind showing a few girls, right? That settles it. Mark took a step forward, shoulders squared. Paul backed up immediately. Before I could speak, Diana said, Fine, but we picked the girls. My knees nearly buckled. But Lisa, steady, confident, nodded. Jessica nodded. And Lauren, who understood more than any of them, joined in. In the cramped changing booth, they were all quiet. Lauren already knew who I was. Jessica had guessed. Lisa looked at me with gentle eyes. Diana spoke calmly. Allison, just show them what they need to see. Then it's over. I adjusted the top of my swimsuit, lowered it briefly enough to show the carefully created shape I had worked so hard to maintain, then pulled it back up instantly. Lisa exhaled. That's all we need. She's as much a girl as any of us. They nodded. We walked out straight into Paul and Amy. Lisa stood tall. She undressed in front of us. She's a girl, drop it! Amy sputtered, furious, but she couldn't argue with them. They left, their little storm cloud finally dissolving. Diana leaned close to me. See? It's fine, relax. But inside I was trembling so hard, my bones felt hollow. That day cracked open everything that had been shut tight inside me. Afterward, doing my hair and makeup became automatic, almost meditative. I learned how to move, talk, breathe the way I felt inside. The world didn't fully understand, but it stopped feeling like an enemy. Ryan and I dated all summer, softly, carefully, nothing rushed, nothing I wasn't ready for. He respected every boundary before I even had the words for them. By late summer, Mom and Diana saw what I had barely admitted to myself I wasn't going back. The boy I had been was slipping away, not violently, but quietly, like a shadow fading at noon. In the fall, I transferred to a private school where nobody knew any past version of me. I grew into myself slowly, shyly, steadily. Before Christmas, my doctor prescribed the medications that aligned my body with the girl I knew I was. Somewhere ahead of me, far, but not unreachable, I could almost feel the weight of flowers resting in my palm, as if each dose gently nudged me toward that aisle. By spring, changes appeared small, subtle, but mine. Ryan and I eventually drifted apart, gently, without hurt. I wasn't heartbroken. I was becoming. Later, in my senior year, Emily told me her brother Kevin wanted to meet me. He was tall, kind-hearted, thoughtful in a way that made you feel safe without realizing why. After coffee, he asked me out. Dinner, conversation, laughter, the simple things that make two people lean toward each other. At the end of our first real date, he kissed me, just a soft, warm kiss, and something lit inside me. For a split second, white lace flickered at the edge of my mind, an aisle, soft music, a bouquet trembling in my hands. I didn't know why that future felt so close, but it hovered there, waiting. Not fear, not confusion, but recognition. Something like yes. We dated the entire year, slowly, respectfully, kindly. He never pushed. I never rushed. We learned each other carefully, like turning pages in a book we didn't want to finish too soon. When graduation came, he held my hand through the ceremony, proud of me in a way that made my chest ache. As our bond deepened, I decided I was ready for the next step in my life, medically, emotionally, socially. 2 weeks later, I began a formal transition program. And 2 years after that, I looked in the mirror and saw the woman I had carried in my heart since childhood. Kevin proposed the following autumn. The ring glittered on my finger like a promise that finally had a place to land. And as the years folded into each other, that distant image sharpened the aisle, the candles, the hush before a vow. I didn't realize it then, but every small choice was steering me straight to that moment. And now, on this day, I stand in white, hands trembling in Kevin's, hearing the minister say, "We are gathered here to join this man and this woman." I breathe out. My throat loosens. My eyes prick. I made it. The girl I once imagined became the woman who stands here. Our honeymoon was laughter, shared mornings, whispered dreams, and the joy of exploring our future together, not lust, not fear, not confusion, just love, gentle and steady. The end of the story is simple. I learned to live as myself. I was loved as myself. And I chose a life where I never had to pretend again.